like that last split, but they couldn't capitalize.
Well, we'll have to find out as we're heading to the Rift for game number 2. Our 2 Academy teams, JDXL versus Astralis. Comps are locked in. Lights can go on and off, as Arkaram said, with the Nocturne Lux.
A light switch combo.
I'm happy to see a Lux. I know most people are like, ugh, Lux, but back in the day, I was a Lux mid lane main. I mean, things haven't got much better for me. I'm a LeBlanc and G3 player mid, so most people sigh heavily when they hear that. So,
yes.
you know, I've always been that guy in the mid lane.
But speaking of that Lux, because we should probably just spend some time talking about the bit of the off-ball pick. I feel like this is actually a really good game for a Lux if you don't die early. I mean, M&S going to very, very easily step away from that Karma Q. We saw that last game too. Karma's trying to go for that early poke and not finding much from it. But you look at the composition which Astralis has, and there is a distinct lack of engage. What you are looking for is for Trundle to catch someone so horribly out of position that it doesn't matter that you have less engage, that it can set up for the more conditional engage of an Azir Shuffle or a Mega Gnar. You have to be very, very careful about how you approach those engages, though, as the solo laners of Astralis talent, though, because they're not easy to set up into the likes of a comp which can catch you out over a wall with Lux bindings, with the ability to close you down with the Nocturne, so many other things. So for me, I look at this Lux and I feel like Lux is actually in a pretty safe position to play a range, be that artillery bot, and just join in on big flanking engages and dive combos that you can get from JDXL. Of course, M&S did play it once last split to great effect, so it's not even a unique champion for him.
And interestingly enough, it's pretty much the same bot lanes we had. Obviously, instead of that mage in the bot lane to go with the Senna, it is going to be FGG on the Scion, but still that fasting Senna versus the Karma and the Xayah. And what we saw from Mervs was, you know, a moment of a glimmer of what this actually should be able to do. So kind of eyes on Chris Berg. Chris Berg is a player who's been on the scene for an incredibly long time. You know, earned that veteran status in the UK scene. So the question is Chris Berg going to be able to pilot this better than Mervs? I'm going to say probably so, but to what degree is the real question for me.
And I do look at this Iron and think, okay, this is the good part of the comp from Astralis, where actually, if you're not playing around your ranged Senna Lux hyper artillery combo with railguns and light beams afoot, I mean, if you're diving onto the Xayah with Karma Shields, with Trundle Pillars, with the Azir ults helping buy you space, that's a great place to do damage. So I think just in terms of the champions on the page right now and on the Rift, feels like Chris Berg is going to be much easier at time things than we saw of the Xayah in the last game.
Do you remember when Lux had a couple of changes?
Which ones?
Well, the ones where hopefully she survives, as M&S has had to pop the flash and the ghost to get away, is going to be able to do so. And Venza also loses a little bit of health, but going back to Lux, do you remember when her ult used to have like a micro reset on it?
Well, it was more than a micro reset for a little while.
Percentage, wasn't it?
It was a percentage reset. When you got to 3rd rank on it, it was like a 10-second cooldown. It was absolutely ridiculous.
It's already like, I think it's like 32 seconds at like rank 3 now, so it's already quite a short cooldown ability. So it was a bit of an odd one to give a champion who really didn't struggle to get their ult up. Just more uses of their ultimate.
I think it was just because the main play pattern of a Lux is to look for bind into you lose in Singularity, final spot combo, right? Yes. Okay, I'm going to try to show off. Remember the names. Failed at the last one. But either way, you're looking for these big, full, press all your button one-shots. And it's very, very important for Lux to keep doing that as well, durability patch, thank you very much there. Kiba's going to take a fair amount of damage. We're not going to go down on that one. But yeah, I do think that this Lux is going to be a very key part of this composition from JDXL. We talked about poke champions in the form of the LeBlanc last game, being in a position to do similar things. I feel like Lux does that in a similar role in this one. Actually, doesn't matter if you one-shot, even if you are just poking people out, you're getting large value in this game.
Looks like they're potentially looking for something here. Keeper has to flash over the knock-up, and the snare lands onto Chris Berg, so there's nothing they can do. They try to get a little bit of tail-up damage, but that was just sad.
It was sad.
That was sad.
Because I actually appreciate the attempt, because you're like, okay, flash over the Q, great. And then what happens with the Zeta W is it hits a low-health minion, and then the minion dies, instantly proccing it, and then getting the snare and the AoE onto Chris Berg behind it. Really awkward 2v2.
I think Keeper shielded himself as the Q went out, and he went forward and went, oh, I have to flash here. And then he just flashes over, and he's like, you're following Chris Berg? Chris Berg is not following. It's like,
I ran my way into this mess, I'm going to run out of it. Now has less summoners to their name to attempt the same at a later date. Of course, opposite side of the map, we see this champion, which I honestly didn't expect to see on the Rift at all in this patch, because Gwen is so absurdly strong. Now, Carlson has been, actually, in terms of laning phase, one of the better individual top laners that the NLC's had to offer, even as a younger player in this league. But Kryze has probably been the best one of that. And giving Kryze the best champion on the patch, probably, I would say, out of all roles combined. That is how strong Gwen is. With a player with such a prestigious name tag on top of it, it feels like this is going to have to be a statement game from the top laner of Astralis talent to really justify doing this.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's a bit of an uphill battle in that sense. But, you know, Astralis, they might leave this Rift with some groovy new haircuts. We'll see.
Well, I'm kind of more concerned if that Scissors ends up around somewhere a little bit more vital in this game, because Gwen does damage. And one of the big problems with not having a huge amount of engage is that what's really going to pop Gwen W when you're not wanting to? Because I'm looking at the way these fights are going to transform later into the game. If Kryze gets to be in a position that they want to be with the W in place, Astralis is going to really, really struggle between that and the Scion to reach the targets that they want.
Yeah. Oh, well, Dan's coming in, looking for Carlson. Does catch him with the Q, but not going to be able to achieve too much more. Meanwhile, the pressure they have been able to get for themselves in the bot lane, Astralis can now turn into that dragon. Going to get him crab. That's not as important. It's going to be a Cloud Drake as well, so looking like we might get a pretty interesting soul here. Going to either be that ocean, that mountain, which is the least interesting, or the Hex Tech Soul. And I think in this patch, the Hex Tech Soul actually might be my favorite, because the ability to stick to people and chase them down,
in terms of the
people
soul,
are harder to kill. It's so good for like continuing a chase.
And the map is also just really intriguing, because what we saw last game was an example of a top laner knowing how to play side lanes, just kind of instinctively, right? Knowing that this is when I back off, this is when I push. And having Hex Gates really messes with those inbuilt, those honed instincts which you've had for so many seasons at this point in the case of all the players. I actually think Mountain Rift is going to be really interesting in this game if we end up rolling that too, because you look at the amount of champions which Astrology can play through choke points, you look at so many champions inside of JDXL that can do the same. That would actually change the way this game plays out in fairly important ways too, even if the Soul, as you're rightfully saying, maybe tones down the action just a little bit too much.
Well, yeah, I just... No mountain, no mountain. We've got enough resistances. We don't need more.
This man does not want to go on a hike.
No, I don't. Actually, I quite like a walk. We had a walk.
Not too far uphill. Maybe like hill dragon.
Actually, I lived at top of a hill. At top of a hill. I lived on top of a hill when growing up, so I'm pretty used to climbing up and down hills. So I don't really mind it. What are you guys doing at home? Let's find out, shall we? Oh, no, we're looking at a duck.
I appreciate
oh, wait, duck.
that.
Let's see what's going on.
Well, you can be...
That's my button. You going to work?
You see,
all right, don't worry, the button didn't
you're not the person that decides that, because the duck, for those of you that don't know our resident duck here, that is actually an eldritch being, a soft luxury. You look into those eyes and it ain't normal. I'm telling you, that duck's up to something. And he's decided today that you're not pressing that button. It's not going to do anything right now. Instead, we're going to see a Herald go down. Is that interesting enough for you?
Yeah, actually, that is interesting, because Astralis have been very proactive on the map. They've been able to accrue themselves, you know, the dragon, the Herald, and this can lead into these gold leads. They've only got a 100 gold lead right now, so it's nothing significant at the moment, but where they go to use this could set them up into the next dragon coming up in 3 minutes' time. This is something that could snowball away from XL unless they find some kind of an answer. Now, Dan is level 6. That's the big thing for me. Paranoia is available.
Okay, that is huge, because of course that's one of the big power points for JDXL when you are playing around that semi-global ultimate, diving onto those side lanes, see if Carlson can end up surviving to a certain point. But I do want to quickly jump back to what you're talking about, those objectives, because actually that's very important for what's going to happen a little later into this game, because you talk about, okay, getting that Herald, getting the Dragon. What does that mean about gold advantages? Gold advantages is one thing. Actually just getting up to potentially forcing JDXL to fight over dragons and come into them, that fixes their issue of having less engage, and they can play around their stronger part of the composition, which is their disengage. It doesn't work if you're getting over on side lanes.
Yeah, gonna get the fear off, but it doesn't actually quite pop as jumping away. The needlework is starting to do some work here. Carlson about to gnaw out, and Carlson survives! No! A double rainbow!
Oh, they're both on the other side of him. They're just the 2 rainbows, 0 hits. And M&S came up there with the ult because it seemed to be just that huge side lane pylon. You had that center ult too, and that didn't end up landing. And Carlson getting maximum value out of the hop, getting the double hop range, flashing out of that fist. Seriously well played and deterred by Carlson, actually.
This needs to be careful because Tax is coming in, does have the flash, good binding, gonna shield himself, pop the ghost, doesn't need to burn the flash, actually gets the Lumen Spark off just for a little bit of damage. Kiba also eats a Q from down there, and MNES now flashless, so does have a world where they can be punished, but you also do have to keep in mind, has still got the flash available. So looks like Astralis now rotating members towards his bot side. Venza and FGG need to be careful as Venza actually stayed a little longer. FGG gonna try and zone him away. They get the slow, Venza flashes out, they get the root off as well. FGG gets caught up for the moment, doesn't quite land the knock-up. And Astralis, again, these ganks might not be resulting in kills, but they're resulting in summoner spells burnt, and they've got the Rift Herald. JDXL can't really do too much here because Dan doesn't have the paranoia. They do get a little bit of damage in return. Chrisberg actually has to be quite careful because Venza starting to stack up a little bit. Keeper gets the shield off and a bunch of plates over to Astralis' bot lane. And that's just going to do a little bit of pressure. This tower is now something that could fall in another kind of potential dive here. But the resets are coming in and Dragon's up.
Dragon's up. Looking at these resets, what's happening with that reset? Get a Kraken Slayer in. That's where that gold's come to. You were talking about, okay, Astralis, they don't really get much in terms of kills. They get a couple of flashes showing that they really just were Marvel over DC. And Chris, but the thing is, you get that gold, and you get that extra advantage onto one of the key members of your composition in this side, who is going to be key for peeling back the later these objectives go. Actually, even with those resets, JDXL weren't in a position to contest for that dragon themselves, so continuing to stack these up. Astralis, it's a slower early game in terms of, again, the explosive, kill-heavy skirmishes as we've come to expect in this patch. They're starting to get themselves up to actually quite a worrying point, JDXL. If you do give up too many of these dragons, then, again, you might be forced into fighting for a stronger soul. Of course, we're going to go find out what that is in just 1 second, and it will be X-Tech.
Oh,
that changes
baby.
things quite a lot.
That is going to be very impactful, that soul. Like I said, the ability to, first of all, slow people down from getting towards you, but also, if you're in a winning scenario, using it to chase down. Chrisberg, very happy with the extra attack speed. Senkug's also very happy with the extra attack speed. Same for Carlson, being able to proc that W.
Sure. Oh, I mean, the individual Hex-type dragon, insanely valuable for Azir, because it gives you some attack speed, also gives you a little bit of ability haste too. Azir uses both of those stats incredibly well. Remember, this is a champion that used to build Nash's Tooth first for attack speed, for AP, and then also back in that iteration of Nash's Tooth for that ability haste, for that cooldown reduction back then. So just getting those individual dragons, very strong for them. And that's without, as you were saying, that extra slowing static shiv-like effect from the soul itself. And that, again, has been maybe one of the larger overarching stories for what we should expect in this game in terms of how do Astralis kind of not make their lack of engage come to the fore. So you see they're playing around disengage right now. Yeah, they are actually going to throw the subjugate out here. In comes the paranoia. Taxa doesn't really want to stick around anymore, and our potential for a first blood doesn't go down. So, that's what you guys are doing at home. Well, we got a moment. It's working now. Hey!
Hey! Wait.
Veneer owner fixing up the place so I can watch NLC at home. P.S. Veneer owner not pictured has put girlfriend and in-laws to work. Delegation, I tell you.
I genuinely thought that was someone accidentally using the NLC hashtag and just like some home renovation company. I was like, oh, did we not check this one?
It's like, wow, we had some great double glazing put into it. Like, that's not...
Thanks, NLC Windows.
Oh gosh, but yeah, no, it is great to again check in with all of you out there in chat and other places, checking in with our own ERL and seeing how you get to partake of this product.
I get to stand in a room
with me.
Isn't
that great? Yeah.
Would help if you weren't so stinky.
It's like I even took a shower before this work today.
I know, you're not smelly at all, don't worry. Not to ruin the facade. Anyway, we're back onto the map. Blue buff's going to get picked up. We are 14 minutes in. Plates have fallen off. Kraken Slayer was picked up quite a while ago. Venza has just finished up that Umbral Glaive. And it looks like both these teams are threatening to try and start something over this Rift Herald. First one went over to Astralis. XL need this one.
So, key things. JDXL cannot get baited into awkward engages. If they can split the fight, that's good. You see that MNS potentially catching out Senkux if he would to go towards this objective. And Astralis, again, I think this is the correct decision by them. They see this going down. They say, look, we are at our best when they're engaging into us. Let's not flip those tables just yet. Let's just keep this away.
Dan's got ultimate. They might think about jumping on Chrisberg here, although Featherstorm actually still down for a little bit. So if FGG can't line up anything more than a slow, unfortunately, and looks like just going to step away. 15 minutes.
Oh boy, are we going
kills.
to say that a lot in this game and this patch? Welcome to durability, folks. Hope you enjoy the lack of damage.
I wonder if we have a stat on when the longest first blood has been in this league.
This league? Well, see if it happens in the next couple of seconds. Taxa. No, it's not doing anything.
Don't curse it, man!
What am I saying? Again, like, I've done so much casting in this last split, as we all have, just sitting here and watching this game. I'm sure that many people who have been watching since, you know, probably season 8 and 9 where it started to change around, where things just became more fast-paced, with turret plates, with the ability to burst out from jungle rolls and everything like that. We saw Lee Sins one-shotting people across the game. This is actually not something we've seen in League of Legends for quite a long time in terms of this level of passive play.
Are you happy, AD carries? This is what you brought. This is your fault. This is your doing.
This really was the monkey paw wish. It was. This is. You know it's going to be a slow day in the office when we've got all of these pictures of wildlife.
I don't know if we've turned into like some David Attenborough show.
How extraordinary.
I can't attempt it. I'm not going to attempt it. He is an icon.
He is. And took a lot of inspiration from his own dramatic voicing. And speaking of trying to make something, well, I'm not going to say boring, but less active to something incredibly dramatic.
Okay.
He is very much the king of that. We've seen a many Animal Kingdom tussle through the guise of that man.
Animal Kingdom tussle. I love it.
That's the best I could think of.
I know, that is honestly amazing. Absolutely love it. Right. Dragon spawning up in 15 seconds, so action probably going to be coming in. Dan's going to put the Rift Tower down to get some pressure for the side of JDXL. Everybody is mid lane. Please, can we have a kill?
Hippo on one side, Alligator on the other.
I'm begging you, it's going to be a final spark to go down, but not enough to get a kill. Everybody's running away. Crisis jumping over the needlework. The paranoia is going down. Chrisberg actually press the Featherstorm out, gets the blast gun over the wall. They've got the Gnar, they've got the turnaround. They might be able to find the kill. Kiba finds the kill. Everything thrown down to kill Venza.
It takes 17 minutes. It takes pretty much every ultimate on the table to achieve it, and about 30 seconds of fighting. Even after that, Astralis don't feel particularly engaged to go elsewhere. But again, Astralis are playing to their comp. They don't want to engage. They want JDXL to come into them. That's where they want to play. They're continuing on those lines.
Look at the health bar though. MNES has his ultimate backup already. FGG going to get caught out for the moment. Dragon going low. And there it is. Looking for the final spark. It's going to land. Almost kills Taxa. God damn these resistances.
Someone's going to have to call up the Grim Reaper and say he's out of a job. No one's dying. The mortality rate of Summoner's Rift is it's only on jungle camps and minions. Champions are apparently no longer allowed to be picked up by the dark hooded guy on the side of them. But we can see, again, this is the combo you're meant to be playing towards. And this is the one carry you're meant to be seriously hitting. This is it. Didn't have a stopwatch at that point, and they land a lot of damage onto them. But it's just not enough through Karma Shield. So again, the increased durability we've seen from patch 12.10 just recently. And after that, it just felt like JDXL, they'd used their firepower and they had nothing left to play with.
Yeah. Even with 2 Lux ultimates connecting as well. Not enough damage now. We do have to be a little bit careful for the side of JDXL, because 4 minutes away, that soul is coming up, and we've spoken quite a lot about how valuable it is, but it is so close to being up and available. No towers have fallen yet, either. We've got some blinking health bars on towers, to be fair. This top lane tower pretty low. There was a charge in the mid lane from the Rift Herald as well, but Dan put down. So, as you can see, just under half HP. So, I feel like these towers may be a big swing in gold, because if you look at the top side of your screen, gold is pretty even across the board, even with Astralis having that first blood under their belt.
I think what that means is that, you know, we get towards a soul fight, you have to hard commit on that. You don't have a choice at JDXL, which is why we called it out a bit earlier, saying, okay, well, Astralis, you don't have much engage, you want to play towards disengage. Dragons help you do that. And then also the Baron. The Baron's the one which actually doesn't matter about the early game setup. If you give up a Baron as either of those teams, those turrets, as you said, are going to bring so much financial power to these teams. And Astralis Town, currently in River, this is again actually one of their more dangerous moments where you don't have your full phalanx set up, but JDXL can't pull the trigger, don't quite have the vision control and damage limits to, again, overcome the even partial disengage from Astralis Tower.
I'm a fool. I didn't realize bot lane tower had actually gone down. Chrisberg dodging out on the binding, has got the ghost popped and the flash available, so should be okay. Dan's waiting in the wings with that paranoia. If this binding lands, it could be big. Looking for Taxa, but Taxa able to avoid for now. And something we haven't really talked about is this jungle matchup. We haven't really had the opportunity to do so, but Dan versus Taxa, a matchup for the ages,
now
really. Two old school players, and Dan making it happen. The paranoia will connect as the railgun comes in. Carson's about to gnaw out. Can he survive in time? No, he can't. But they're able to get a kill back in response, and Cries trying to sustain up with that Riftmaker. But Tax is doing a lot of work. Cries healing up off the minions as much as possible, but he is oh so low. One more bite from Taxa, and down goes Cries.
And if this isn't working, as JDXL, will you commit 3 ultimates onto a side lane turret? You are in dire straits as JDXL. Again, see Gwen trying to get this rundown play. The Sentinel actually lands this time. The damage and the shield both coming into the equation, and it still ends up in a one kill for 2 death traders. Taxi, you were talking about that jungle matchup between 2 of the more experienced junglers in our league. Both end up on their way to that play, and Taxa, well, cleans up the rest of the play.
Taxa used to be on XL way back when, so bit of a revenge story here against the likes of Dan. Obviously, it has been a long time since Taxa was on XL. He's shifted around a couple of teams, so it's nice to see him return to an academy
favorite memories of these players, these teams?
My favorite memory of Dan is bundling up of all of the different Dans in League of Legends. You got like Dan XD,
Foxdrop is a Dan,
and yeah, Orcs is a Dan.
There are a lot of them.
There's a lot of Dans in League of Legends. We must start the coal.
We've got 2 Alexes on broadcast too. We have a contingent of them around.
Are you an Alexander?
I'm an Alexander, yeah.
Okay.
That's me. Yeah. Aiming to become great one day, although potentially not as conquest heavy as the other one of that name, but we'll see. See what happens when I'm done with casting.
Let's see how it goes. Chrisberg gonna have to pop the ultimate as FGG might find himself caught out here. The pillars are doing a fair amount, but not gonna catch him out with the feathers. And remember, this is the fight for the dragon. 37 seconds until it comes up. Cry's going to step forward. Zencox has to jump over the wall just to get a bit of a zone away. Now, it's JDXL who have control of the river and this particular area.
So, mid lane priority becomes so important. We talked about choke points a lot today, particularly with the champions we have here. So much CC and long range damage that can hold these corridors so well. Mid lane priority helps you avoid that. There's a bigger entrance to get into river if you push out the mid wave. That's what Astralis have played towards now. Still trying to cash people out through it, our JDXL, but they've just lost that mid prior. Use a lot of the way to approach this Dragon Pit. So Astralis, again, making sure that they're not overcommitting. They want to play disengage. They have 5 people all together, and they're very happy with this positioning.
They're going to be stepping up, placing as much wards down. The sweepers are sweeping. There's the binding onto Carson, just a bit of a chunk onto him, but he's about to gnaw out, and this is the worst time for JDXL. MNES needs to line it up. The paranoia comes down. They're waiting for it. They're jumping in. The railgun goes down. MNES on the flank. Finds himself the binding, and he tries to go for the final spot. He's just giving him a dodge away for the moment. Senkox gets the shovel back as there it is. Carson's going to go down, and Cries is popping off. Finds himself a triple kill. Cries playing that absolutely beautifully.
And Gwen is just too hard to deal with. You can disengage all you want. You can try and peel back. Cries, hops over the wall and says, you do not give anyone this champion on this patch. Least of all this player. For JDXL, they're going to walk away, stop that soul fight, and find a perfect flank from their top lane to finally get some kills on the board in some significant manner.
Able to take down a second tower for themselves as well. Taxa, no flash, no blast cone. I don't think he's going to be able to get in time, although Keeper's coming around to see if they can do some kind of work here, but Taxa going to be zoned away. No flash available. It's going to be on Keeper to land a Q&a, but it's not going to happen as Taxa eats the laser beam and is just going to have to make his way back to safety. XL, take the Dragon, take Baron, take a fight.
That is such a huge swing in momentum for this game, because you look at that, it's stalled out from Astralis Town because they were meant to hold on to the lead in this game, particularly on these Dragons, saying, okay, we're going to get this priority. They won that mid lane push, that arm wrestle, and tried to get towards that Dragon, force JDXL to come into them, and that didn't work. you don't actually get a chance to do that very often in this game from this point, because you now have to play against a lot of these towers going down, because that Baron buff's in play. They need to try to make sure they can hold on to something on this map. Catching out Cry's hit would actually be pretty huge.
Yeah, they're jumping over, they're looking for the shuffle. Cry's able to dodge away, puts down the W, got the needlework. Dan's coming in with the paranoia to try and find the turnaround, and Cry's giving everybody a haircut. In comes Dan, and he takes down the kill. Stopwatch being used by Cry's. Cry's is so low. Remember, he's worth a shutdown, and he's still in this. Finally taken down by Senkux, but Astralis are paying the ultimate price. Chrisberg burning down to the red buff, and Senkux will fall to Venza in the meanwhile. Carson is teleported in. Kiba looks at the tether. In for the knockup they go, but Carson jumps over. He's able to do it. Venza trying to buy himself some space. Has to flash away, gets the snare off. Carson now Batanar out, gets it up in time. A little bit more survivability to him with Kiba in his pocket with the railgun. Will send him packing back to the Shadow Realm.
Astralis Talon, again, this is probably the correct play from them. They try and shut down this Baron buff and stop JDXL running rampant across the map, but they just don't get the damage calculations right. Even with an Azir turret factored in, they lose that grouped up fight, and they're starting to lose every lane and almost every turret outside their base.
Kiba on a flank here, flanking Karma, something we haven't seen for a while, but Taxes here with Chrisberg in pocket. FGG has to be careful. Tether goes wide. Teleport's coming in. Astralis using everything. There has been Dan, though. He's made his way forward. He's got the paranoia. Kiba already low. FGG will lose his life as he's going to try and take them down. He's just going to have to Mike Tyson the minions out.
And now we're seeing JDXL probably...
No, they're not.
JDXL, I mean, you can see what they were trying to do, try and get maximum value out of the Baron buff. If you get a real stranglehold on this map because you've taken down so many turrets, this game is effectively done from that point. Astralis don't have that same foothold to play around dragons, but they go a little too far, and in not letting this play just go in bot side, it feels like they've wasted a lot of the power which they could have used to group up in a lane somewhere and siege down turrets. I'm not sure they're going to be able to get that back in entirety, though of course they did end up somewhat recouping their losses in the spot side play, trading fairly even, at least in the first act of this fight. Does feel like Astralis managed to problem solve their way out of what could have been an even worse situation.
Could have been, but it was still pretty rough. XL,
still pretty bad. It's just not worst case scenario
here. Yes, it could have been worst case scenario. It wasn't. They even forced a teleport here, but they did at least get their answer back onto Venza and FGG. Bit of revenge for the play that went around, and there was that moment where I thought, oh no, we're getting another flank, but no.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is that you look at the back end of that play and you think, maybe...
Oh, Chrisberg!
Oh my gosh!
He almost finally sparked him out as the railgun as well, the shielding just enough! Damn you, durability patch, damn you!
Thank you, Mr. Durability, says Astralis Talon, Eddie Carry. Hitting the 3-item spike, none of which is magic resist, none of which is sustained, and it just doesn't matter, at least for now. M&S, of course, picked up that Magi a little earlier into the game, because if he's like, look, I'm not dying, none of the carries are dying, let's see if we can get one pop-off fight. Extra damage coming through from this Lux build could pop at some point.
That tower going off in the bot lane was unreasonably fast from Cry's. Terrifying. I thought Rock beat Scissors, but apparently not.
No one has got a Tooth of Nasher strapped onto it, apparently. If that changes the matchup. Not really here for pros, rock, paper, scissors. I haven't really done my VOD review on that game yet. Maybe next week we can bring up some of that. But again, Cry's, speaking of jokes aside, is a serious split pushing threat. And
yep.
Even with the end of the Baron buff at this point, JDXL walk away with, as we said, was so dangerous for Astralis Talon, very large map control. Dragon is up, Dragon is just going to be down, probably.
Yeah, Dragon has been taken by Cry's on his own. In the meanwhile, going for a reset level 16 right now. 2 levels over Carson. We kind of touched on this last game, but levels are very important here. Every level gives you more resistance, gives you more stats. So 2 levels for Cry's over Carson. In a 1v1, it is just so stacked against Carson. Cry's has to just misplay.
And Kiba maybe misplay.
Oh, the auto! There it is, able to find the kill. The paranoia is on, and Astralis, it's time for their nightmare to begin, because in comes Dan. FGG loses half his health as Dan actually goes a little bit low. Carson goes to the Nart, back on, able to find it. Another body does connect as Chrisberg looking for the kill on the FGG. In comes Cry's though on the flank, and the needlework starting to put in the damage as the shutdown's been pinned up by Chrisberg. But now Chrisberg has to deal with Cry's, who's coming in with the snips, with the cuts, with everything necessary as Taxa takes down Venza in the meanwhile, and JDXL have have crumbled in the fight. They were scattered, they were lost, and Astralis take the win.
And you could see the Gwen coming onto the flank, but Astralis, they managed to stop the fight being about that Gwen. They end up playing around their carries. Chrisberg, Sencux buy themselves space,
Watch this
and
base.
they're the ones which end up determining the course of that fight.
It's a zeal and a stopwatch for that base for Chrisberg. He got a massive shutdown onto MNES as the teleport's coming in, and Astralis, it's their turn to go for this Baron. You can see Kryze is in the area, same for FGG, but Dan's about to come back up with Paranoia, so he can zip around the map. If JDXL want to go for a denial, an attempt, but it looks like they're going to just have to give this up, step away. Astralis quite happy to take this Baron for themselves. And this game still very, very easy, even here, Namira.
And to start it off with your karma of all things going down, which is the center of, you know, your Death Star, your Death Ball combos, meaning everyone gets shielded up. I thought this was as good as done, but you ran into the Azir turrets, you ran into the feathers, and MNS has only go on ult and only has enough mana for like one spell after that point. Really, after the karma went down, it felt like the only damage left on the table was the Gwen, who was hitting like one target at once over in one position, and Venza gets shut down. JDXL, maybe they took too many angles in that fight. They tried to get too many flanks and they couldn't get everything down the front and center, where the front to back sometimes can favor their carries.
I think, honestly, Dan going on Taxa was probably the biggest mistake there. He paranoid into Taxa. He could have gone for Chrisberg. Obviously, Chrisberg had ult, but forcing that ult out early can be the difference maker for how Astralis make their decision.
So difficult, right?
There's a lot of factors in that fight that I would love to look at.
Maybe that's one we can break down in depth sometime a little later, but the problem is at that point, I mean, you're looking at Taxa, you're looking at the two carries, and if you walk into an Azir ult, you die.
Yeah.
You do not get to have a second say about that. At least there is a stopwatch now as some damage does go into Taxa, but you go into the feathers, you go into the Azir wall, things are not looking particularly happy for the Nocturne, and he doesn't have that many dive buddies. You have ultimates, which are kind of like a little bit of a helping hand from teammates across the map, but if they've been used elsewhere, it really becomes very difficult to shut down these carries. You're waiting on MNS to find these miracle picks, and he doesn't even have those Magi stacks we talked about anymore. Got shut down by Chrisberg in that last fight. The Lux working around these damage limits. We saw how hard it was to actually 100 to 0. That limit again became just a little bit harder to play around.
You do have the Horizon focus, you do have the Void Staff, and obviously the Luden, so there's a lot of
damage. It's just
pen as well.
On 12-9, I'd say, you know what, that's people dying. 12-10, level 16. That's 16 bumps of additional stats you wouldn't have had.
True.
Last patch. Also, of course, the base stats increased on that too. And MNS looking for those flanks, looking for something, catching people over the wall, but Astralis playing very disciplined right now. Carries it safely behind their front line. The pillar there for disengage. Karma shields with the Moonstone and the Redemption as well. Just keep them topped up. Astralis talent, again, they don't have to take risks, so they're not. They're playing it out the way their composition is meant to, and they are being rewarded for it currently.
They are. The question is how much are they going to gain with this Baron? Because they've used a fair amount of it, and they've not really done much with that Baron. Yes, it's bought them time, it's bought them space, but you are into Venza, who infinitely scales. You've still got MNS, who at all points now will be a threat. It will be able to just chunk someone out.
This is a key moment, because Astralis are currently resetting and looking to get back towards this dragon. That's going to be the real key moment in this game. Can Astralis force JDXL to once again engage into them around this dragon? They don't have vision control right now, so they go back to the tried and trusted mid lane push. And walking back into River again, the safe, wide openings, not content to go through the chokes. JDXL, again, throwing out those skill shots, looking for anything.
It's on a short cooldown, it's fine. They look for a knock-up. Carlson's about to pop out there. They actually get the subjugate off into FGG, and that's kind of been wasted. It's Kryze on the flank. Chrisberg is almost one-shot. The Paranoia is on. The chase. Stopwatch comes out, and Kryze almost finds another kill. Everybody is low on the side of Astralis as Venza starting to pop off. He's found himself one kill already. Dan super, super low. Kryze zoning him away. Dragon should be secured here as Kiba has overstepped, and he is taken down. Kryze finds a shutdown as well, and Astralis just crumble before JDXL.
And it feels so harsh to boil this down to 3 moments, but it's a successful Gwen flank, it's a failed Gwen flank, and then it's a success to end it out. JDXL, they were pushed, they were tested, but Astralis come up short.
Got a long time until anybody is up. Tax is going to have to make a miracle happen. He's trying to catch the wave, I think, here. He's got Carlson in his pocket, but Tax is already low. Dan and FGG also low. Carlson's about to get himself the Narvar up. Look at the death time as well. Everybody is about to come up, and XL recognize that. They've reset, and they back off.
Hey, they've somehow, some way done enough, just being annoying enough on that Trundle, and get to go back to watch this fight. And again, Astralis, they're trying to do what they have done, and it's very cookie cutter from them, saying, look, we gotta go in through the river, we don't want to go in through these chokes, we don't want to get ourselves piling into Lux's remaining damage, and not setting ourselves up, but Kryze does a Herculean effort to get onto those carries. Seriously, we talked about this Gwen, how strong the pick is, but also how strong the player is. Kryze has been one of our premier top laners this year in the NLC. He's showing what he is still so feared on this stage.
This game has been extended more and more, but the Baron coming up in 50 seconds. I expect to see more action around there. XL take back to the Rift. A needlessly large rod has been picked up by MNES in the meanwhile. Death stance onto Dan. 4 items onto Kryze. He has the cap.
He has a pot too. He's got the Elixir of Iron, gives him a little bit more HP. Also gives him some more tenacity to work with. Helps out that little trail, gives some extra.
Coming in, Paranoia is on. That's going to be the Feather Storm thrown down already. Kryze waiting in the wings. There's the Dawning Shadow with a follow-up. The final spark only hits onto one, but Kryze is absolutely mincing through these health bars. Kiva has to go into the stopwatch. The binding goes wide for MNES, and Senkux throws out the Emperor's Divide, but it's not going to be enough. It's still a killing spree in response. Carlson is on the wrong side of the map, able to jump over and break away from the Paranoia. No, he's caught out by the fear, by the slows. Carlson continues to jump away as Venza on the hunt. Venza looking for the kill, gonna look for the damage. Look at that pop! Can't quite find enough to kill Carlson. They got 26 seconds until Chrisberg's up.
No carries
but there's only
alive.
2 towers standing for the side of Astralis. JDXL are looking for their final push right here, right now. Carlson's Nars about to time out. He's flashless, he can't do anything. He's looking for the rock. He can't do anything. He's going for the Nar back, catches onto a couple of members, but it's only Carlson. The stopwatch is gonna get blocked down. Attacker is just cut down by Kryze. The stopwatch won't do much. He's only going to buy himself time as in comes the backup. The spark is going to chunk Kiva down as the Nexus falls. JDXL take the win.
Made to work for it, and there's a lot actually of praise to